Well, hello and welcome to another episode of our Apocalypse World campaign, The Frozen Heights. As always, this is Mr. JP Stilts, and I'm very happy to be back with Dusk and Lark Chris, or Chris Lark, or however we want to signify dead
Lark
here.
was there first. He's earned his place.
True. Really happy to be back here. We are finally in a brand new day. The events of day 4 will not be soon forgotten, but we find ourselves in the very, very early morning hours. The caravan has just pulled up to the gate after a very stressful past few hours. A dead member, Look, with an arrow that pierced through his throat. Another member, gravely injured, Z, who had an arrow in his shoulder that had been laced with poison. Both of these men, Lark had an interesting experience within their mindsets. He has seen the abyss of death through the eyes of a dying man and seen what true insanity can actually look like through the eyes of Z as he suffered the poison from the arrows. Both leaving him drained, weary. It was a rough trip. Dusk, on the other hand, Dusk got to have a bit of a meal with her good friend Shazah, and she had a bit of an experience, a vision of a better life, a place of just her and Shazah. No one telling her to do orders or trying to do tests or just look at her as she's something strange. No one bothering Shazah. Quiet place for just the two of them to live. And Shazah knew exactly what it is that she had seen. In fact, it seems he had been seeing the same thing, and that is what he wants. He does not want to stay with his family. He doesn't really care for his family at this point, and he has just learned how to get access to the Emperor's car. So for Shazah, at the moment, it's about a get out of Dodge situation. For Dusk, it's a matter of get some sleep, because there's been a fire, there's been some dead people, there's been chaos and smoke, and it's been a rough day at the castle. For Chris, Chris had some time to do some research. He knew that Princey would be coming in the morning, and he wanted to get an idea of what is this thing? Who can this individual be that he has a third eye? I can see partially through his chest. He's obviously been affected by the juice. You learned of the different categories of these maelstrom beings or entities, the touch, the individuals that have been affected by someone that has powers, the catalyst, a being normally outside of the maelstrom that has abilities beyond what normal humans should have. Exactly what Princey is. He seems to, if anything, cause mutations to the people that he calls family. And then you have the breeders, the beings or things within the maelstrom or created directly by the maelstrom that create the catalyst that bring the strange powers of the weird and allow it to enter our plane of existence. So he researched that, but he also wanted to look through some real cases. What happens when people enter the isolation chamber? He learned that it all depends on how closely tied the catalyst is to the breeder. If the breeder, the being within the maelstrom, is giving the catalyst, the being outside, life, it could definitely kill them. If it's not a life or death situation, if it's something that maybe they're being overburdened, they have no choice in the matter. The isolation chamber can cut them free from that, allow them to have free will. And there's other times that the isolation chamber seems to not have much effect at all, as if the breeder simply planted a seed and then left, and now that person themselves are starting to change. He looked through some file cases of what is the worst thing that has been recorded. There was a report of an old woman there that didn't really seem to speak much, but she gave off an aura of emotions, at first making everyone giddy, happy, but able to change the emotions of those around her to anger, to fear, to the point that there was a bloodbath down in the deep, dark halls of Enemo. A bloodbath that only a man that happened to be deaf was able to survive, take out this woman amongst the complete chaos that was there. This man was a member of Chris's team. It's rumored, or there's at least reports that say the whisper still haunts the halls, and that is why music is still played to this day. If you can't hear her, she can't affect you. So keep the tunes turned up loud, keep the radio on. Don't allow silence to enter these halls. So as we start today, we're going to go ahead and do our typical move, something we haven't done for a little while. Lark, let's do fortunes. Let's see how the cult is going to be today as their leader returns to them.
All right.
All right. There we have an 8.
It's been so long, I don't even remember what a partial does.
Right. Let's take a look here. So, for fortunes,
But choose one once.
yeah. So for your cult folk, they have a couple wants available, I believe. Let's see.
So surplus is 2 barter, violence, growth.
Right, and their want is hunger.
All right. Yeah, maybe with everything gearing up for war, rations and everything are being distributed differently, and the cult members being sort of outsiders probably are getting shafted a little bit in their share, especially after the storage rooms were burned.
Right. Yeah, and there's just been a lot of that market's been used for things other than market things lately. There's been a lot of the whole thing with the Legion getting new uniforms, the cattle being set free, the burning of the storage, all of that. There's not been a lot of selling. So while they might have a lot of barter, there just haven't been a lot of places to spend it.
They're up to 9 barter.
Right. Yeah, they're quite wealthy. The other part of that is a lot of the food, well, it's going towards the men that are going to be fighting in the upcoming battles, and not a lot for just the general public, and certainly not strangers, which, while you've all been spending your time there, you're all still kind of strangers. Perfect. So with that, let's move over to Chris real fast, and let's do a past roll.
All right. I'm already forgetting where that is. Is it? Am I rolling? Which stat is it off of? I can't remember.
For past, that is a. Oh, I opened up Sam's character sheet. That's not the right one. Let's get Chris.
Sharp. It's a sharp roll.
There we go.
All right. Oof.
Okay. Hey, at
Best
least
get
we
these
got
out
it.
of the way now.
Exactly. Get it out now. So on a miss, the MC will choose a question and you will answer it. Okay. So let's see. All right. I'll give it. I kind of think this one is interesting. What let some people survive when others couldn't?
I think the number one thing is the effects of these beings, the breeders. It varies so much, and they spread differently. So I think for most people it was a simple roll of the dice if they happened to be in an area where the breeders took hold quickly and chaos spread. They had much lower chance, while in areas where they weren't quite as violent, or their effects were perhaps not immediately fatal. Like it was just a die roll from the newspaper clippings and blogs and all the scraps of information that Chris has. Like this room of his is probably just like covered like floor to ceiling with notes and stuff.
Right.
So
And there's like all of these initial reports of like just mass psychosis and all of these people trying to call these just mental issues, things that they could explain with science. Part of that, is absolutely Enemo, like writing these stories
right,
saying, it's nothing strange here. It's just obviously there's something in the water in this small little city. And it's clearly it's
absolutely.
too radiated. And
It,
yeah,
and I bet a big thing that Chris probably noticed is that the areas that were hit the hardest are where Animo has some of its main facilities.
exactly. So we we find ourselves. It's probably about 4 o'clock in the morning. It's so dark, it's hard to tell. The torches of the front northern gate flicker as a bit of wind starts to pick up in the early morning hours. Old Man Peter's out of breath. The oxen are shuddering, just having worked so hard. The body of Look has frozen. It is completely solid. Z is still shuddering, eyes still closed, the poison removed, but still gravely endangered. And Lark, it's hard for you to keep your eyes open, but you do. Along to see two figures on the top of the wall look down, recognize the caravan, and begin to move. You see these men are both dressed the same. It's hard to tell them apart, and for a moment you might actually freak out thinking, is this a twins again? Have they just changed clothes?
Like reaching into his
Right.
robes for the pistol again, but then realizing that he's at the castle. This isn't them. He's safe.
Exactly. The gate begins to creak open as they are pulling the wheel to lift it up, and you can see that these are two members of the Legion. They do not look as rugged as when you left there. They're both wearing these dark blue uniforms, dark pants, and their uniforms are marked with X cross stitching, just like their bodies were, heavily padded, looking very nice. Their heads are completely shaved, their beards completely gone. While one clearly stands taller than the other, you can't tell the difference between Doghead and Asher, because you know both men, but you could not pick out which one is which. As the gate opens, the tall one exits. It's good to see you back, Peter. Peter has no words. He just is happy to see the gate open. You feel the cart lurch forward. He simply just nods at the man, and you begin to make your way in.
Lark is going to kind of like roll to like face them as they enter, and he's just like, "Where's the Emperor? I need to see him immediately."
The man jumps on the side to ride. He kind of looks into the cart. He's in his chambers. I will fetch the legate. Are these two hurt? And he points towards Look just looks like he's passed out. He points to these two. Are these two injured?
Lark kind of gives like a solemn look. One of them is.
All right, Peter, get close to the castle. Asher, go and fetch the legate. Tell him the caravan's arrived. We have injured here. They need to be cared for. As the cart goes by, he jumps off the back of the cart and with his back foot just kicks down the lever and the gate falls solid behind you. As it does, you feel the warmth within the walls that you haven't felt for a few days now. Even though you're still exposed to the outside, there's so many fires burning here. Oh, it feels good. You look over and you can see the church. It's dark now. Everyone must be sleeping. See the tents of all of your people. The marketplace is completely empty. All of the tents shut, all of the doors locked closed. The only bits of movement you see are the patrolling members of the Legion. As you look around, it's not just these two. It's every single one. They all look the same. But this place is a bit more empty. There's no members of the Portum here. You don't see the dark black, the riot gear type uniforms of anyone. You can look over to the tavern as you pull in closer, and you can see the drunkards, the general village people, kind of laying across the tables or passed out against the wall. A place where you would have seen members of Portum before you'd left. There's none there. You hear the creak of the large wooden door as Asher enters inside the front room, assuming to go find the legate. The sound seems to have awoken a few people. Dusk, you hear the solid slam of the gate. You hear a whisper, a low conversation. You look into the courtyard and you can see Lark's returned. The cart looks... Everyone there, they have that 1,000-yard stare. Two of the bodies there don't seem to be moving. Do you just watch?
As a starfighter swoops in.
Right. Do you just watch for now? Abraham's there. Abraham seems to be moving. Abraham's probably helping Lark out of the cart.
Yeah, Lark looks really haggard, and there's a blood stain on his chest, a blood stain on his shoulder. Like, he hasn't cleaned those, and his already tattered vestments. Like, you probably don't even notice the new holes they have, but you definitely notice the crimson red spots.
Either Abraham wasn't very good at his job, or...
To be fair, one of these was self-inflicted.
Well, yeah, that would probably be the other explanation. But
Can Abraham protect Lark from himself?
I don't think she accounted for that.
No one did.
But yeah, Dusk just watches for now.
Absolutely.
She'll keep an eye on where Lark is taken, presumably the church, but just making sure.
Oh, he needs to go find the Emperor. Things got real bad real fast.
Mm-hmm. After a few moments, Doghead comes running back. There's no one in the Medicaid right now. I can bring... And he stops for a moment. You can tell he, like, remembers something, but pushes past. I can carry these two down there. Which one's hurt worse?
Lark kind of points towards Z. That's the only one that you need to worry about.
Damn. All right. Asher's
and
looking...
there's probably the arrows and everything in there, and Lark's just gonna be like, "Those arrows are poisoned. If you can, get them to the Medicaid. See if he can. Someone can figure out what kind of poison those bastards are using."
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Do you need anything? I can grab some stuff while I'm in there. Bring it back to you.
I'll survive. I need to get to the Emperor. I have vital information.
Right. No, Asher's he. Well, we're gonna get the Emperor for you. Peter, you okay? And Peter, at this point, he's just sitting there. His big face in his hands, just kind of heaving, trying to breathe. Fauna, at this point, she's handed you back the gun you had given her, and she gets up to follow Doghead wherever Z's going. She's going with him. After,
But before Lark heads up, like, just kind of go over to Peter and like put a hand on his shoulder. This will not go unanswered. That you can be assured of.
he lowers his hand, and this man looks like he just ran 5 miles. His face is blood red. His eyes are squinted. His brows are twitching. There is so much anger in this man's face. He lowers it down. He just looks at you. You're damn right for not letting this go. I'm joining those fucks. They don't know what they've done now. Look, that man deserved far better than that, a more honorable death than that. These two will not. They'll wish for death before I'm done with them.
Lark just kind of nods. Their reckoning will come, but in the meantime, my followers, please let them know I'm all right. I have to get to the Emperor and deliver the information.
Of course, back there. Yeah, I'll go. Who should I look for? Should I just wake them all up?
Find Rourke if you can. Right. He was left in charge. Let him know that I'm discussing things with the Emperor. Let them know that Abraham and I are all right, but the trip didn't go as planned.
Of course. Kind of hits you on
If you need a place to stay, we will gladly accept you.
I've got a place in the castle. The Emperor allows me, so I appreciate that. No, I don't think I'll be sleeping much today. Far too much planning to do. He kind of grabs you by the shoulder. I appreciate everything you've tried to do for my people. I will not forget that. I will get you your money when things settle down. But if there's anything you need, anything at all, beyond these walls, you come and find me.
Thank you. The world's always a better place when we learn to help each other.
That it is.
All right, and Lark's gonna turn towards Doghead. Take me to him. This cannot wait.
By this point, you start to see some lights flickering through the windows on the second story. You kind of hear your footsteps, and as he begins to walk towards the door swings open. The legate walks out, and his armor has not changed. He's still wearing the suit, the chest piece, the kind of what are they called? Like the Roman skirt-like thing, looking very much like Caesar's Legion, just without a helmet. He walks out and goes to like kind of help you and help Abraham, just help you walk in. The Emperor's coming. Please come sit in the hall. We've got water, we've got wine. You look like you need much of it. The Emperor needs a moment to get prepared, and he will join you here.
Lark kind of nods. Please tell him that it's urgent. As you've probably heard, things do not go as planned. I'm afraid they will try something before we can mount a proper defense.
Damn. Yeah, very, very good. Sit, rest yourself. The Emperor, you can understand. It has been The Emperor will fill you in on what's been happening here. It has been a very stressful few days here as well, so the news you carry, know that it does not fall on deaf ears, but if he does seem a bit distracted, understand he has many things on his plate at this time. He goes to pull the chair out and helps you sit, begins to pour a very large glass of the wine and a large glass of cold water.
Lark will sit and very gingerly. Lark is, he's mentally exhausted. He's physically exhausted. He's probably moving like an old man at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything hurts. He's so much effort just to think straight. He just sits and takes a few gulps of the water.
As he begins to kind of walk, he turns back. Would you like this one to stay? And he points towards Abraham. I can escort him back to camp if you wish.
Please do so. It'll do the others good to see him all right. And Lark just kind of looks towards Abraham. Tell Rourke I will be there as soon as I can. There are many things we need to discuss.
Abraham comes back to you and just puts his hand on your shoulder. Get through this. Come and find us. We'll be ready for you.
Lark just kind of nods. May the entity guide you. You did well.
It's all for you. It's all for you. And he begins to walk with the legate. The door in the far end opens, and you see the Emperor. He's dressed a bit proper. He's wearing, it looks like he's just slipped on some of his leather pants, and he's got one of his nice button-up shirts on, but he's not wearing an overcoat. His hair is a bit out of place. He walks over and takes a seat, noticing that you look very concerned. Lark, you have returned. The legate has informed me that you have an emergency message or things. How did it go?
Poorly. Very, very poorly.
He leans forward and just looks. Please explain.
I was allowed into their home. It's an ice cave. Some remnants of the previous world still there, but they view the entity as an enemy and worship something they call the Mother. There were more of those maggots. Killed one of the snow bears, and Lark actually probably still has the paw, like, among his various things. The leader, Princey, he sensed the entity, and negotiations turned south quite quickly after that. They forced us out. I was distracted momentarily by Sam, the mercenary that accompanied us, and on the way back, those damn twins, they escorted us to the castle, but on our way back, the rock fell, the ice broke. They quite obviously tried to prevent us from getting back here. Two of Peter's men were hit, one in the throat. I did my best, but couldn't save him, and the other I narrowly saved. The arrows were tipped with poison. I instructed your men to get the arrows somewhere where they could be examined. Perhaps this is something we can take countermeasures against, but between the maggots and the poison, it's unfortunate for me to say that we are up against surprisingly adept biological warfare.
He stops, kind of leans back for a moment. Huh.
We're
So-
beyond peace. They unfortunately see me as some herald of evil.
I see.
It seems negotiations were doomed from the start.
All right. Tell me everything you remember about them. How many men do they have? What kind of weapons are we dealing with? You say biological elements, these maggots and arrows. That's fine. What else do you recall?
There didn't seem to be a great number of fighters among them, but Lark kind of leans forward a bit, which is probably a bit uncomfortable for him. I am very concerned. This thing they worship, the mother. Princey has powers similar to what the entity grants me. Not only are they resorting to using those maggots and poison and ambushes, stealth tactics, there's an unknown element here, Emperor, and it frightens me greatly.
He stands up and approaches the fireplace, kind of tosses another log in there so the room gets a bit more well lit. And you can see that while he might look a bit tired, his eyes are now wide open. He kind of walks towards the table and drags his finger across it for the moment. It's all of this. It's all of the weird shit. We just can't escape it, can we? Say that now there's this mother, we have this your entity. Of course, do you know what your entity's been doing here while you're away? No, you probably, I don't. Well, do you? Madness is what I would call it. Utter and pure chaos on all facets, all sides. You probably haven't heard there. Yes, we have a member of your cult, Larissa, I believe her name is. She's in the dungeons. She just decided to.
Lark sits up at that, like, you have one of my members in your dungeons.
She decided it would be her purview to kill 3 of the men of Portum. She's there until we can hold a trial and get to the bottom of it.
3 men, a woman with one hand slaying 3 men. Tell me, did you witness her commit this action with her own hand?
It was within my walls. I have other witnesses and I trust my men. Though, I must say, recently that has become even more hard to do as your entity apparently likes to play with puppets. Is that really what all this is? Did I send the wrong? Is that what you're telling me? I have sent the wrong emissary. That... No, you just found... Right. Damn it, Lark. Damn it. You can tell, like, this is... He's just mad because this is the worst thing... The worst thing. All he wants is to get away from the weird, and you're just bringing more weird to him.
And at that, Lark is actually probably not going to help that situation, but just be like, and how do you know it is the entity doing this? I've just informed you there is another creature at play.
He has spoken to me. Through the mouths of my men. Your entity has claimed you to be its prophet, that I should feel the privilege that you live within my walls. I have had to tell my men to arrest each other and bring them down to the dungeons because they're not even in control of themselves. I have warned you, Lark, what would happen if there were more weird here. If you're telling me I have another enemy beyond my walls to the north, I can tell you I have another enemy to the south. Portum is on fire. I cannot have enemies
Portum's on
within
fire.
my walls. It's an absolute... We are surrounded, Lark, on every side.
Like hearing that, Lark is going to be. Do you know anything about the attackers? Sam, when I went after her, she was determined to get to the ranger station above Princey's cave. There were 3 individuals there. There were 3 individuals. She killed 2 and took the 3rd. She forced me to help her pack a truck full of weapons. She got a grenade launcher from them, Emperor, and she just drove off.
He looks, again, more information. He leans forward. No, I know nothing because all of the men of Portum were here preparing for war against Princey. No, I've had to send the Night Sentinel and his men back to his fucking settlement so that I can hopefully find out what's going on there. But as you know, that trail is not something quickly down, so we won't know anything for at least another day. All I know is that the smoke, you should have seen the smoke. It was as if the entire forest was on fire, but in a single plume focused directly on Portum. I don't know who's attacking us from there. Now we have someone in the north that has the ability of using these bugs, things that he brought in here. What are you working towards, Lark? And he walks kind of around the table, probably about 2 or 3 chairs, just looking. I know that you're not a puppet. You are not one to be played.
Neither are you, Emperor. Neither are you. My goal has simply been sanctuary for my people, and I thought we might find it here, but I see we will have to fight for it tooth and nail if we must. And I am very much willing to do so because I can't leave this again. I can't start over again. I refuse to start again.
Then
I've done so too many times.
work by my side. Pray to your entity, sacrifice to him, draw bones, whatever you need to have him stop doing whatever this game is to my men. This is supposed to be a place free from the burdens of the hell that is outside of these walls. You know that I have discussed with you what my dream is of this place. Anyone can be welcome. Things can be sold. It is a safe place of comfort. That can't happen when we have a cancer growing amongst our community.
I will do what I can, but I do not have direct control of the entity. I will do what I can. I will.
You speak
like
to it.
Lark
Yes?
puts up air quotes like, I will work with the weird here. I will. Where is Dusk? What has she been doing in my absence?
I won't lie. A lot of the stuff happening around here, I thought it was her. Absolute, and some really stupid men did some really stupid things, and well, I would assume she's safe. She and I have talked.
You spoke with her.
Yes. Yeah, she's
I'm
approached me a
surprised she,
few times. It seems she's
interesting.
willing to help me with the weird situation as well. Where she is now, I couldn't tell you. I don't feel the need to watch over her now that I know it's not her causing these issues.
I see. Well, it seems one way or another, Marcus, we are surrounded on all sides. There's nothing else we can do but try to fight out of this situation.
Right.
I wish I knew more of what Sam did. I tried to show her the way of the entity, but I will tell you this, Emperor, I have never been made to fear for my life as much as that woman makes me fear.
You
If
haven't seen her since the encounter at the tower. She drove. Where did she drive? What vehicle did she have?
there was a truck that the three individuals had arrived on, that's what they took. It was loaded up with their weapons, what we scavenged from the ranger station. I took very little from it, although I did manage to get a hold of this. Lark has that map, correct?
Mm-hmm.
He will pull that out and present it to the Emperor.
Yeah, and it's very offsetting because this is a map that was taken before the Great Snow. So there's definitely snow on the peaks, but for the most part, it's very green. It's like someone has a Google map of the area.
Mm-hmm.
He looks at it for a moment, kind of walks in, and you can tell he's recognizing a few things, but there's a lot of it.
And Lark just like, I believe this map was made a long time ago, before this land was the way it is. Perhaps there are a few ancient treasures on this that you might be able to make use of.
Yes, I've seen others like it. It seems the old ones would they had decent map making skills. He sits down and he kind of follows down a valley. Taps here. This is where we are. Show me where Princey is.
Lark will look at the map and, to the best of his abilities, try to pinpoint.
Oh yeah, it's not too hard. There is
Actually,
an
I bet the ranger station would be on here because that's where we found it.
right, and the ice cave is a very famous ice cave, so it's on there as well.
All right. Here, the ranger station was there. The cave was there. If the castle is here, then Lark's kind of like making like a mental map of like all the places that they stopped.
Right. I understand how important the entity is to you, Lark. I understand that. We've discussed that, and I will make sure that my men understand that you and your followers are not to be touched. Again, when it comes to the girl, a trial must be held. Murder within these walls, you understand the rules when you come in. I will allow you to meet with her later today, but if we want order here, we must have some semblance of control.
Lark kind of like tapping his fingers a little bit on whether or not the table. You said there are witnesses?
Witnesses of her fleeing the scene of 3 bodies covered in blood. And a knife in her hand.
I will learn from her what happened. If there are more witnesses, how shall they be presented to you?
If you were to find more witnesses, bring them forth. The fuller the story, the more I can understand. That was a day of chaos. Within that single day, I will let you know, 15 men of Portnum died. Not all of the cases are quite in the clear, so again, that is why Larissa is safe in the dungeon. Crustaceous has had absolutely no access to her, I can promise you that.
Lark kind of like turns his head. Cruciacious, is he in charge of this dungeon?
Oh, you've heard of him before. You've stayed here long enough.
Oh,
you've heard.
okay.
You've heard
Yeah,
of the
in that
monster in the
case-
dungeons.
Yeah, in that case, Lark will like kind of like scowl a bit, like, and see that it stays that way. If you are to let that creature touch one of my followers, our alliance will. And Lark just kind of like trails off and like looking
You
at
have-
the Emperor, like,
You. That is understood, Lark. There are real things that we're dealing with now. Princey. Well, that is one problem. These individuals at the tower, what else can you tell me of them?
they were raider types, but they were armored, well armed. They were shooting at wolves with automatic weapons, and I mentioned the grenade launcher.
Right.
Who knows what else they might have access to, especially if they are affiliated with a larger group. But Emperor, I say, Sam, no hesitation, gunned 2 of them down, had the 3rd at her mercy before I could even act.
You spent much time in the lowlands. You didn't recognize them at all? Just raiders?
Well, it's hard to tell. They tend to not follow a uniform like your men.
True.
It's hard to identify one raider group from the others, but these individuals were well armed, knew how to use their weapons.
Do you feel
Sam-
this Sam will return?
See, that's something I'm unaware, and fact is I'm unaware on whose side she'd be if she did.
So
If
precautions
possible,
should be
she-
taken against her.
I wouldn't write her off as an enemy just yet, but I assure you she is more dangerous than any one individual we have in the castle.
She's the one from Portum, yes, in the red armor. That's the girl you speak of.
Yes.
Yeah, she has a bit of a reputation herself.
I did see her without her mask at one point. She's been burned horribly. She flew into a rage the moment she saw these individuals, so I believe she may have some past affiliation.
I see. I'll have
Whether
my men
or
keep an
not-
eye out.
I believe if manipulated in the correct way, she will make a valuable ally in this coming conflict. But tread lightly, because you do not want her as an enemy. Though she may not be able to take on the might of the castle on her own, she will cause damage that I don't know if you would be able to come back from. She's smart, she's strong, she is well armed, she is ruthless.
Something.
Frankly, she makes your legionaries look like children playing a soldier. Frightening, to say the least.
Certainly. Certainly. You've given me much to think on tonight. It seems you need your rest. Allow me some time to think. Get some time for you to rest. Get some
Yes.
food.
Emperor, I very much advise you to focus on Portum in the south. This threat, if it is it is the same group that Sam and I encountered, they will require your full attention. Let me, once I finish here in the castle, I will consult with Dusk. We will deal with Princey. Whatever he is planning, he needs time. That's, I imagine, why he tried to have us taken out before we reached here and delivered the message.
Take the day. That'll give us enough time to hopefully hear what's happening in Portum. I will convene a war council. You will be welcome at the table. We will plan, we'll strategize. This will be our place, not just mine. A place for you and your flock. A place of safety. A place of no judgment. But an understanding must be made. Those that wish to join you willingly absolutely have the right to do so, but at no point should you or this entity force servitude. And the way he's talking again, he doesn't know enough about the relationship you have to really know that you can't control the entity. Again, the Emperor works with facts. And has, the only time he's seen the weird stuff, it's like in this imagination dreamscape of nightmarish proportions. So you might be able to forgive him from being just obtuse when it comes, there's no way you can follow this order, right? But for him, he just has to say the words.
Right. So Lark kind of nods, and he does his best impression of the salute that the Legionnaires give as he stands. You have my word, I will do my best to bring a positive outcome in this situation. I do request that Lark probably has long Look's bow like across like his torso.
Mm-hmm.
Look was a good man who did not deserve the fate he was dealt. If the opportunity arises, I think it should be his weapon that puts down those twins that Princey sicked on us.
Keep the weapon. I will keep that in mind. You deserve the right to right these wrongs. And he says that with a smile, remembering some conversation you've had in the past.
Thank you, Emperor.
Thank you, Lark. Now go,
Lark
get some
kind of
rest. Your
smiles.
family's no doubt waiting for you.
Lark nods and turns and heads towards the door, probably walking a little stiff, still not in the greatest shape.
Right. Dusk, you see Lark go inside. After a few moments, you see the legate and Abraham walk. They're having a conversation. The legates, as they're kind of getting close, you can listen because it's still fairly quiet out in the courtyard. He's really just trying to get an idea of like, what all did you see? What happened? Just a bro to bro kind of conversation. You notice Old Man Peter get out of the cart and walk towards the tents. He goes to one towards the back. It's a dark, almost looks like camo, but it just kind of looks like it's a light brown tent that's just been stained over the years. He leans down. Rourke. Kind of hear a grunt, and after a moment, the older man Rourke exits. Peter, you're back. Where is Lark with you? Peter kind of helps him get up. Yes, he's returned. He asked that I fetch you. Just the conversation, a few of the other followers begin to stir. You have Rourke and Pepper, all of the family kind of just hear Lark is back. Tents begin to open. as everyone begins to kind of file out into the cold air, some stretching, some pulling on a few extra coats to fight the chill. The legate kind of stops a bit short, kind of taps Abraham on the back. Should probably be headed back. Make sure the Lark and the Emperor are okay. You did good, boy. You got back safe. You made it through the northern gates. There's not a lot of folks that can say that. So feel pride in that. Abraham kind of smiles, nods, walks over to the group, and they all begin to kind of hug him. Like, you actually made it back. There's a few, Ram is like, wait, how the hell did Abraham get back here? It's like a big blowing his mind that Abraham
There's like two people in the background exchanging barter.
Exactly. Yeah, and you see, I think one thing that stands out to you, Dusk. One of the tents opens, and it's the same one that Pepper is in, the older woman that you had seen having a conversation, and exiting from the same tent is Preen, Shazal's mother. Why she's here and not at home, it's not quite clear. As soon as everybody's prepared, as a group, they begin to walk towards the castle, planning to wait for everyone. There's definitely a subtle conversation amongst all of them, specifically around Abraham, what happened. And Abraham's fairly quiet with them. It's not his place to give the story. It's best to let Lark explain everything. So it's a lot of, I'm glad to be back as well. It's so good to see you. We must go and just make sure he's prepared. Probably even asked one of the members to maybe stoke a fire and make sure Lark's tent is nice and warm. They get to the front of the gate, and a few minutes pass again, and you see Asher run around, kind of run past them and run back to where the Medicae is. After a couple minutes, both Doghead and Asher run, and they can see the legate starting to walk back, and they run towards him, start talking. Their voices carry again because it's so quiet here. Nobody knows where the Medicae is, and Z's not looking so good. The legate starts like, did you check the tavern? Did he pass out back in the armory? Did you check upstairs? They start going through a list of all of his to-dos. They remember, oh wait, we didn't check the second tower from the left, so they run off to go look there.
I'm considering if I should anyone know that he's in the dungeons.
Right. Yeah, because at the moment, only you, because you sent him down there by himself. You're like, go lock yourself up.
I mean, I guess they'll eventually find him.
Right.
But there's someone hurt, and I mean, this doesn't really care about them, but
Right. Yeah, I mean, if anything, I'm not sure what Dusk would find more... I don't know if Dusk would find any of this interesting, more just agitating. Like, shut up, I want to sleep. Why y'all gotta be so loud?
yeah, I guess.
Although Dusk has very much wanted to talk to Lark for a while.
Yeah, that's why she is probably more curious than usual. She's waiting for Lark to return from the castle. But she will. Do I still have like a hold on Abraham?
Let's see.
I think I still have one at least.
You spent one at the bear. You spent one to go climb the mountain. Yeah, I think you still have one.
I guess I could ask him to just say dungeons or in the dungeons.
Right. So you're just like,
I mean, I guess as a reward for keeping Lark safe, I guess.
Right. So he just kind of hears the Medicaid in the dungeons in his head, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. As a group standing there.
I mean, not to say like, oh yeah, he's in the dungeons, like as if he knows, but like sort of as if you were guessing, like
Right.
if you check the dungeons or something.
Right. Yeah, and I think for a moment, like he just overhears the conversation, and hears them kind of listing off, check here, there, and everywhere. As the legate goes running by, he just kind of calls out, "You you check in the storage and down in the dungeons?" He kind of looks confused. Why did I just the legate? No one's going in the storage. Dungeons. Why the hell would he be down there? Asher, go, check it out. Asher stops, turns around, begins running by. Just in the door opens. And Lark, you see your family there. You see a few new faces that you probably recognize from town. As you walk out of the castle, Rourke immediately just walks up to you and grabs you, just holds you for a moment. Doesn't say anything, but it's definitely a he made it back.
Lark kind of lets out a little like because he's still sore as hell.
Right. Quick, come. He picks you up and carries you back. Like he's not gonna have you walk the whole way. He just goes and picks you up.
He has me like a fireman's carry.
Yep, just carries you. And yeah, they have. It's probably.
Lark's just like thinking to himself, I don't know if this is more or less dignified than just walking.
Right. They have the fireplace in the castle lit. They have an area laid for you to rest. He brings you in there and sits you down and just looks and gives you the "do you want your space" kind of look. Like there's those times where sometimes you just the followers are asking too many questions and all of that. So he's just saying, do you want rest first? Should I hold back the crowd? Or do you want all the 11 now?
Lark just kind of takes a breath. Let them come. I'm exhausted, but a lot happened. Looks like a lot happened here too.
Yes.
And Lark kind of like gestures towards like his 2 wounds and everything. I have been given a new blessing by the entity. I can heal wounds, but it's not a guarantee and comes at a risk to myself. I was able to save Z with it. He will hopefully be joining us soon. She kind of gestures to the bow. I tried saving Look as well, but I saw death through his eyes. It's not an experience I hope to have again for a long time.
was an opportunity to prepare you, yes. As the entity does, it shows you the dangers at your path so that you can shield yourself against them.
Lark, he kind of like grabs like Rourke by the collar, like not super aggressively, and just like pulls him in so he can whisper. And he's like, "This Princey, they worship another being of the Maelstrom. Don't want to alarm the others quite yet with this information, but we have an enemy on a scale that we've never had before."
He just nods. All right. He grabs you, kind of grabs your arm, has you lean back, pushes over a canteen, and he probably brings a fairly large bit of like a full bread thing, maybe an apple, kind of just moves it towards you.
Yeah, Lark will definitely take it and kind of just nibble at it as he's waiting everyone to arrive we're in the church, correct?
Right.
Yeah, like he's waiting for everyone to like actually get into the church and everything. And it's going to be quite obvious he had a time. Like he has bow on and quiver on him now. He's got 2 spots where it looks like he got stabbed through his vestments.
Mm-hmm.
He just looks tired. He's probably looks less kept than usual. And while Lark is waiting, he's going to just like have his hand over the skull in his robes. And just taking deep breaths, resting his eyes a minute as he hears people begin filing in.
Yeah, I think we need to. You're supposed to have what? Is it 11 to 15 folks? Something like that. You've got a list of
11 to 15 what?
Cult members, right? I don't think we've talked about all the people you have.
I don't think we ever named all of them, but at the start I had 10 members.
Right. Yep. So I think I had all of those. So obviously you see Pepper, you see Ram. You see a few other familiar faces as they come in. Those that have been with you the longest, they've probably seen you in similar conditions because for those that have been with you, they've had to fight with you at some points. For the newer folks, they've had it very easy. Ashtown, sure, Ashtown was bad because one person made a mistake, but you've had to deal with some things where you are all outcast, and if you did not kill, you were killed. And you always took
right, and being nomadic as we are, we've been attacked.
As they all come, what would their custom be here? Is it to come and, do they kiss your hand? Do they just kneel before you? Is there a specific thing they say?
I think they just kneel before me. Although some ceremonies obviously like a part of this very religious thing Lark has, he tries not to like overload the ceremony because then it's just a waste of time, and they live in a world where you gotta keep moving, you gotta keep working to live.
Right.
So it's probably really basic. They all just kind of like kneel at the pews that are still up. They just kneel in front of Lark and in the aisles, just wherever they can.
Your eyes begin to get very heavy as the last few begin to file through. But then there's a smell. A smell that you thought had been lost to you. You open your eyes a bit wider. You see blonde hair. You see that very particular bone cross across her neck. You see tears down her face. Rikara kneels before you, just crying. Partly because she's so happy that you're back, partly because she knows she should have never left. Kara's returned home. She's so happy that you have as well.
And Lark kind of blinks a little bit, surprised by that. He had noticed she was gone, but there were so many things happening, and like he's been left before. I mean, it's nothing new. You can't dwell on it. But after everything that's happened, to see her again, Lark smiles, despite everything. It's good to see you again, Rikara.
Not as good as it is to see you, Lark.
And he just smiles. Well, get in line. I have a lot to discuss, and no longer much energy to discuss it with, unfortunately, so we must hurry.
Of course. She gets up, kind of wipes her eyes, and goes and stands amongst the rest of the group, who are all just very quiet, solemn. Dusk, are you listening into this? I mean, you're close enough that as long as they're not whispering, you could probably overhear. Maybe even be able to see through the cracks of the roof.
Yeah, so where exactly is Lark right now?
So he's in
He would
the
be
church
sitting-
next to you.
Yeah, and he would be sitting kind of towards the back. The pew's been knocked over since then, but
Mhm.
that they've kind of like set up a spot for him, probably in the raised area.
So that's like not inside the church.
It's
They're inside the
inside.
church, but because there are so many holes, you could be outside and still hear.
Right, and the area you're at is kind of the storage that's partially connected to the side of the church. So there's a small little like walk-in area that they keep all their food, and then you're in an arrow and kind of archers area that's up above that you can only get by climbing up the ladder, and no one ever comes up here because it's not part of the walkway. So you're
just remembering that Dusk actually destroyed all the windows, so
right.
Yeah.
it would be really easy to hear what's going on just by standing outside the wall.
Yeah, I guess she could be eavesdropping.
All right. So what does she hear, Lark?
Lark kind of looks around. Needless to say, the trip didn't quite go as planned. I was sent to this Princey's abode to mediate on behalf of the Emperor, and Princey has deemed entity an enemy and attempted to assassinate us on our way back to the castle.
You hear
And it
Ram
was-
like punch his hand immediately, like not saying anything, but oh,
An innocent man lost his life for no reason other than their envy, their hatred towards what we serve. If not for, he's gesturing towards his wounds, if not for the power of the entity and the blessings he has bestowed upon me, I surely would have perished. He begins kind of like taking off the bow and setting it down. And he actually like starts like to kind of like take off his like vestments and everything because he wants to show the wounds that are like they all would have known he didn't have those wounds a few days ago, but
right.
when he finally gets all this stuff off, it is just like old scar tissue.
Right. I think Dusk would be able to see that too.
Just peeking in through the broken
Right.
windows.
Yeah, it looks like he's got some stab wounds, some. Yeah, it's been.
That are far beyond the level of healing they should be.
Yeah.
I have not unlimited use of this ability, so we must use it sparingly, but know that the entity's healing hand has been lended to me.
They all just, I think as they witness this, like this is a religious experience for them. I think you have Rourke, Ram, Rikara, Pepper. They immediately fall to their knees again. The rest of them follow suit, looking upon the body of their prophet, of their leader, actually touched, a physical manifestation of their God. You have been powerful before, but now you are leading them to so much more. I do have to ask though, are you frenzying right now?
I've had that move for the longest time without actually using it. I'm not sure it's a frenzy because that specifically talks about when you talk to a mob, and they're definitely
Right.
like pumped up, but I don't think they're a mob yet. Like all the options I see are things that wouldn't really help in this situation. Like I don't care for them to go back quietly to their lives. I'm not sure a spontaneous orgy would really do much for things right now. Lark's too tired for that. Maybe
Right.
another time. I mean, they'll already fight for me as a gang. I don't need them to unite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I don't think this is a frenzy roll, but I'm 100% going to open my brain in a bit.
Right.
I thought about it, yeah, but I think that's much more for a charged mob of people I don't necessarily control already.
Right. Dusk, how is this, seeing what you see now, hearing what you hear, how is this making you feel? Especially with your recent dealings with the entity. Because there's nothing but praise for him down in that castle right now.
In a sense, she is understanding that the entity is kind of transferring powers to Lark, and
it's almost as if he's a catalyst of some sorts.
yeah, so he's kind of approaching her level, and in some ways she can relate to that, but it's also a bit concerning because, well, the entity has proven to be less than benevolent. Not exactly malevolent either, but if the entity wants, they could just ruin someone's life, and that someone could be Dusk or Shaza, and yeah, she's taking none of it.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely feel if the entity had an alignment, it would be chaotic neutral.
Well, yeah, I guess.
I
Kind
mean,
of
if you
like
ask Lark, it's lawful good, but
kind of like the not quite unlike the Elder Gods or the Great Old Ones from the Cthulhu mythos.
So Lark is kind of just showing this off for a little bit, letting it sink in on everybody. Though I must rest soon, I have been given an important task by the Emperor to corral the spread of the entity, and though the entity will do what it shall do, and we will support it in its actions, we must at least make a showing doing such. And Laura kind of looks around. Larissa, in the dungeons, what happened?
Rourke steps forward. There was an incident. Three of those Portum bastards. Well, Larissa was going to get a bit of food. The market's been running a bit strange lately. They're not open very often, so she had to go out a bit earlier to make sure to get there before all the things were gone. They got a hold of her. They took her into the storage. They tried to have their way with her, but you know our girl. She
Yes,
She
that
took
I
him down.
do, but three men, two, I can imagine. She's proven herself capable in such a situation, but three Porta men.
She wouldn't say what it was. She had help, but she
This is
wasn't ready
good.
to say.
That means there's a witness, someone that can perhaps help our situation here. I
She
wish to
went
get her out
willingly.
of the dungeons as soon as possible. Yes, as was the correct choice in the matter, unfortunately. Resisting would have only caused more problems than it would have solved.
It's been difficult to allow her to stay there for so many days. That you have returned today is surely a sign that today it will right. It's been a bad couple of days here, Lark, as the Emperor has surely informed you.
Yes.
You must rest. There is still much to discuss. For now.
One more thing before we end here. Lark kind of like reaches through the vestments and everything that he took off, and he pulls out the paw of the snow bear, and he looks to Rikara. And I actually need to look at my notes. It's been so long. Who died again? I need to.
Right. So for the death, you had Julia, who died.
Julia and
Fuse that died.
Fuse. Okay.
Yep.
They were the two that died from the what we assume to be the bears on the way up.
Yep.
Okay. So Lark steps down from the kind of raised area and goes over to Rikara and hands her the bear paw. He just says, "Though this will not bring them back, I take it as a sign that those that do wrong against us will suffer the consequences. This Princey and his followers are no different. We will take his third eye, cast it from the tallest mountain. He will suffer for what he has done to us."
She takes it and grasps it between two hands, looks at you. Rikara's the right person to give this paw to, not just because of the symbolism of it, but she's also... This paw can be easily turned into a weapon that she can wield with great accuracy when it comes to dead animals. That's something that Rikara often tinkers with, and her emotion changes to thankful, no longer fearful of being pushed away or as a child being caught out past her curfew. Now it's an understanding he does actually care. Unlike long-haired, shirtless men that might be a good lay and want to go on adventures, Lark, he actually loves. And this is a symbolism of that.
It's ironic because he's currently shirtless.
Right.
And Lark kind of like turns to everyone, makes his way back over to whatever chair they had set up for me, sits down. I shall pray one last time before taking my leave. And he grabs his skull from the vestments. He looks around. I see there are a few new faces here. Fret not. This is something that you will become accustomed to in no time at all. Simply clear your mind. Let the entity caress your soul and enter a world full of all the promise you could ever imagine. And Lark is going to open his mind.
Perfect. Yeah, the two new members, so you can write them down, are Preen. So that's Shazaz's mother, kind of a 50 to 60-year-old Indian woman. And Lee, she's kind of a larger woman. You would know her as the baker nearby. And it's L-I, Lee, not L-E-E.
Alright.
So Lark is trying to communicate with the entity, right?
Yeah, he's about to open his mind. Mm-hmm.
Could Dusk like try to intercept
Oh, sure. I mean,
that so that she
Ooh.
can face?
ooh, okay. So I guess the question is, are you trying to stop him from being able to get to the entity in total, or are you trying to get him to talk to you instead?
Actually, I want to be like a passenger, like arrive with him.
You want to listen in on
Oh,
the
no.
conversation. Okay.
Not
You are
just listen,
hijacking my god call.
pretty much.
Okay, yeah. No, let's start off. Dusk, I'm
This
gonna have
could
you
go
act
really
under
bad
fire,
for both of us.
and then we'll go from there. Just as you prepare yourself to hop on.
Act under fire.
Right. And I think you might have a move for that you can roll. Let's see. Do you have something special for that? Casual impossible reflexes.
For acting under fire, I don't think so.
Right.
But with what she has in mind, I'm not sure if this would be like have like a +1 because towards her goal.
Right. Okay. I guess. Yeah. If you can explain that, I'm willing to use that.
So in short, she wants to see what the entity is like and possibly just like tell it to leave her and Shazza alone, or even threaten it.
Right. Trying to get an understanding of the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I'm cool with that. It's definitely one of the restraints that's, maybe not keeping you here, but could cause an impasse for you to leave. So, sure thing.
All right.
Okay. So I'm going to have Lark roll now, and based off of his roll, then that will determine how you flinch, hesitate, or stall. Or
All right.
you get a worse outcome, a hard bargain, or ugly choice. Okay.
Nice. Barely, but nice.
Okay, I'll offer you this. Dusk, you can either see and not hear, or hear and not see. Which one do you take?
I mean, I think she has an idea of what Lark is going to do. He's just going to communicate with the entity about the cult thing. So she just wants to see what the entity is like because I have something in mind.
Right. So you're gonna just basically see it as if you're watching through Lark's perspective. Yep. Perfect. So what is Lark opening his mind to? What is the deep question, thought, or hope that you are forcing into the weird tonight or this early morning?
Lark wants insight into how to defeat Princey. Because that's going to be like his big undertaking going forward, it is something he, for once, it is a weird he doesn't quite understand.
Right. Okay. How
And
does...
yeah, and how better to get insight into something weird than asking your weird Maelstrom Shadow God?
Okay. So how does the entity want you to take out Princey? Okay. You find yourself once again entering into darkness. And then you start to hear the drops of water dripping, and as they splash, you find yourself in this cement tunnel of sorts. Kind of look up to where these drops are coming from, and they look dark blue. You feel invited to walk towards that, and so you do. And as you get closer to this source of liquid, you see something you might have seen, a rusted soda can or something like that at some point. You can see a hand, a dark hand, reach up and grab a large blue soda can looking thing. It has a little bit of a hole in the bottom. It almost looks like you're a small mouse that has just exited into the living room of the entity. You've walked out of this cement room, followed this dripping to find yourself in a living room of sorts. You see the entity walk over to a refrigerator, open it to a bright light, pull out one of these cans. He turns to you and you find yourself facing him. He hands you this drink. It has writing on it, but it's all scrambled. Can't really tell exactly what it says. It looks like a blue barrel, and it's full of this dark blue liquid. He hands it to you.
Lark takes it and feels it in his hand a bit, just kind of looks at the entity with a bit of a expecting look. Lark has a huge smile on his face, though, because it's actually been a little while since he's had a direct audience with the entity.
The entity leans forward and places his hand over it. When there's too much light, we're exposed. Light requires fuel to function. A fire needs wood. A flashlight, electricity. Princey is a light that can be extinguished by the removal of its fuel. Take his fuel, make it yours, become more powerful than he is, and cast that light out of his damn home. Bring me to his place, Lark. Bring me to his waters.
I understand. It will be done. He will be destroyed. Whatever he serves will be cast from this world and will all be yours. Princey will perish.
He nods, walks back like we're watching a early 90s TV show. The typical dad lean back in the chair, flip up the thing, and just go to turn on a television that just has vague static. Do you drink the liquid in your hand?
Lark does.
As you do,
It's Mountain Dew.
Dusk, you see Lark begin to transform. His skin begins to darken. The shadows begin to fall off of him as if he's dry ice, just begin to fold. The texture of his body becomes more solid. The light from the refrigerator goes dark as his shadow reaches over and just submerges it in darkness. The room begins to fill. The last thing remaining is the TV. And as his shadow completes, you no longer see Lark. You see another version of the entity dressed in the robes of Lark. And then your vision goes black. Lark, as you consume this drink, you feel a tear within you for a moment, as if your soul is being pulled from your body. You almost feel like a weight being released because you're no longer tied to a mere physical mortal body. Instead, your soul becomes encased in no longer this vague armor that you know is there of the entity protecting you. No, now you are surrounded. You are the entity. And you don't feel drowning this time. You feel the sensation of wind pulling you. You don't want to leave this moment. You feel power within your hands that you've never felt before. You don't notice the room go dark because you're just looking at your skin, your flesh. You have this. For everything that you've been seeing, you've been so far apart from the entity throughout your travels. Now you are one with him. But unfortunately, these dreams cannot last for long, and you get pulled back into your body to find yourself looking forward. Dusk, as your eyes opened, you will have noticed the church is dark. All of the light has been extinguished. Can't see anything in there. And Lark, as you open your eyes, same. Not a single light source except for those coming from the marketplace and beyond. Everything within the castle has gone black. Exactly.
What time of
It's
the
still
day or night?
early morning. It is dark outside.
I just
So, all
imagine
the
like
lights-
Lark's biography titled "How I Became a Drow."
It's only within the castle. It's not throughout the entire place. So they had like a campfire and a couple lanterns in there, within the little church. All of that's extinguished. You can still see the lights coming from the marketplace, the tavern, the castle itself, but everything in this area has gone out. Basically, like this entire area is now cast in shadow.
Do these shadows feel unnatural?
Are you trying to read the situation?
I guess I am.
Yeah, it's a bit charged. Yeah, go ahead and roll that sharp. Okay, ask one anyway.
Okay, let me open questions. What should I be on the lookout for?
Oh, Lark. From what you can tell here, Dusk, you feel like Lark is playing with a power well outside his control. He is a child with an assault rifle. He is...
Probably not the most uncommon thing in this world.
No, probably not. He's a dog with a big red button. And, oof. All you see is horrible, horrible things happening if he hits that button.
Oh shit. So it's really pitch dark.
Right. And so, because it's so dark, and because you missed that roll, Lark, you can feel the gaze of someone watching you from beyond the church walls here in the darkness. Up above you and back behind you, two dark black eyes peer
Does,
through a small slit of a window.
So there's like line of sight here, right?
It's a bit mystical. Like you feel that thing, and I think you can probably, you may not know exactly who's watching you, but you know the location of them that are.